Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good morning. The devotional today will be led by April Osman, who is a poet from White River Junction.
Thank you, Representative Hoyt, for the invitation. I'm going to read 2 poems from We, which is a book about bridging the political divide. First poem is called Nonpartisan. If I told you I saw your soul, would you judge me inappropriate or disbelieve me? If you asked for a description, would I admit you glowed golden as these late northern afternoons, whose slanted autumn light makes green fire of a backlit tree's shimmering leaves and balances me perfectly on the tightrope between yearning and content, as if I finally understood what beauty meant to tell me? Before I read the second poem, I'll just say that Obad is a poem or a song in honor of the morning. And I wrote this poem after driving along a country road in Vermont just before dawn after the State of the Union in 2017. State of the Union, Obad. Moving through dawn's ethereal twilight gray, as darkness leaches from valley landscape, passing gold-lit rooms like staged plays, wombs from which a day's labor is born. Brief havens for waking, one man with his back to me, though he doesn't know it, bent like a lover to his task, with faith and walls that may not be all he needs to survive catastrophe. One man with his hand cupped so tenderly around a mug, I want to hug him. Maybe contemplating ways to face the day with faith and compassion or adversity. Each luminous, breakable neighbor, sipping hot coffee or eating a donut, holy in the moments duty soon will co-opt, but none more or less divine than any other. Thank you.
Members, it is hard to believe, but it is our page's last day today. I am so honored to thank and acknowledge the second class of legislative pages for their important contributions to the 2026 legislative session. As legislative pages, you have played a crucial role in carrying the conversations and information that spurred the creation of bills later to become law. As a group, you worked together and were stewards of the building, guiding visitors, supporting legislators and staff each and every day. Your time under the Golden Dome has made a lasting impact, and each and every one of you have brought your unique backgrounds and skills to help make the 2026 legislative session a success. Just like those who have come before you, you are now an invaluable part of our legislative family. I hope your experience here was enriching and that you've had the chance to learn, to explore the building, and immerse yourselves in the legislative process and how it works. I hope you have formed meaningful friendships with each other and legislators in the building, and that you'll stay connected with this institution in the years ahead. On behalf of all the members of the House, we wish you the very best in your future endeavors, and we hope that you will come back soon to visit. Thank you so much for your service. I will now present each page with a pin. We will take a photograph. I would ask members to hold your applause to the end. We'll give them another big round of thank yous. First, we have Scarlett Bedford from Sharon. Next is Fitch Heilenbach of Charlotte. Now Madeline Howard of Montpelier. Next, James Laughlin of Berry City. Next is Ella Morrison from Berry Town. Next is Evie Scott of Northfield. And Addison Town of Morrisville. Let's give them another round of applause, shall we? Thank you. Members, this morning we have 3 Senate bills for referral. The first is Senate Bill 193, which is an act relating to establishing a forensic facility for certain criminal justice-involved persons, introduced by Senator Lyons. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S-193, an act relating to establishing a forensic facility for certain criminal justice-involved persons.
Now the bill's been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Next is Senate Bill 198, which is an act relating to the regulation of tobacco products and tobacco substitutes, introduced by Senator Lyons and Clarkson. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S-198, an act relating to the regulation of tobacco products and tobacco substitutes.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. And finally, Senate Bill 214 is an act relating to the provision of the pre-kindergarten education in geographically isolated school districts, introduced by Senator Ram Hinsdale. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S-214, an act relating to the provision of pre-kindergarten education in geographically isolated school districts.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Education. Members, we have a bill on the notice calendar requiring referral to a money committee pursuant to House Rule 35A. The first is Senate Bill 218, which is an act relating to reducing chloride contamination in state waters, carrying an appropriation. The bill is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Members, we received requests to read 2 House concurrent resolutions that the House and Senate adopted pursuant to the consent calendar. The first is HCR 237, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the Vermont Associated 2026 Winter Olympics medal winners. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics included a spectacular display of the athletic prowess of the 24 Vermont resident or Vermont educated competitors, and 6 of them captured 7 of the 33 U.S. medals, confirming the premier role Vermont continues to play in incubating U.S. Olympic skiers. And whereas Ryan Cochran-Siegel of Starksboro, who attended the University of Vermont, repeated his 2022 silver medaling in the Alpine Super G and completed the course merely 0.13 seconds behind the gold medalist, Franjo van Alleman of Switzerland. And he won his 2026 silver medal 54 years to the day that his mother, Barbara Ann Cochran, won the women's slalom gold medal at the 1972 Winter Olympics in Sapporo, Japan. And whereas the world's top-ranked and most decorated women's cross-country skier and founding member of the prestigious SMS T2 cross-country skiing team, Jessie Diggins, competing in her final Olympics, added to her Olympic triumphs when she captured the bronze in the 10K skate. And whereas second-time Olympian Stratton Mountain School alumnus, the big air skier Mac Forehand, in an astounding display of skiing bravado and ingenuity, completed the first ever 2160-degree nose butter triple cork, secured the silver medal in the big air competition, and exercised exemplary sportsmanship when, by an extremely narrow margin, Norwegian Tormod Frostad was awarded the gold medal. And whereas former Landgrove and now Richmond resident, Stratton Mountain School alum, UVM mechanical engineering graduate, two-time individual NCAA cross-country skiing champion, and member of the prestigious SMS T2 cross-country skiing team, Ben Ogden skied in his second Olympics, and his performance in the cross-country sprint classic was breathtaking as he narrowly finished in second place by 1 second at 3 minutes 40 seconds to the gold medalist Norwegian Johan Hasflot Klæbo, ending the 50-year American hiatus in men's cross-country skiing Olympic medaling, which Vermonter Bill Koch last achieved in 1976. And as an added thrill, Ben Ogden earned his second silver medal, teaming with Gus Schumacher on the U.S. men's cross-country sprint freestyle team to win the first American medal in this event. And whereas UVM alum and current Waitsfield resident Paula Moulton was the first Junior World Championships women's slalom gold medalist, was the first UVM Catamount freshman to win the NCAA women's slalom title, and was twice named an NCAA first team All-American. More recently, she performed superbly in the World Cup slalom and giant slalom competitions, and at the 2026 Winter Olympics, she earned her first Olympic medal, a bronze, skiing the slalom segment of the new women's team combined event in partnership with her downhill teammate, Jackie Wiles, delighting students at the Green Mountain Valley School with whom she trains at Sugarbush. And whereas Burke Academy alum Michaela Schifrin, the most decorated alpine skier in the sport's history and prior Olympian, dominated the slalom to win the gold medal, marking a new milestone in her remarkable career on the slopes. And whereas each of these Vermont associated medalists magnificently represented our nation at the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the Vermont Associated 2026 Winter Olympics medal winners, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to each of the Olympians honored in this resolution.
Next is HCR 238, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired on a century of advocating for and facilitating the realization of outstanding support services. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas in 1926, Helen Keller, the ardent advocate for individuals with visual impairment, toured Vermont and encouraged the state's governmental leadership to provide public financing for services assisting Vermonters who are blind or visually impaired. And whereas she provided an effective advocate as her speaking engagement in Burlington sparked considerable interest, and in May 1926, her efforts resulted in the establishment of the nonprofit organization, the Vermont Association for the Blind, now known as the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, VABV. And whereas upon being formed, VABV partnered with the state to develop a statewide program to facilitate vital support services for impacted individuals. And whereas for the past century, this partnership has improved the lives of countless Vermonters of all ages who are either blind or visually impaired. And whereas in 2026, VABV is an integral organization in the system of support for the visually impaired. And this work is now especially important as the number of persons in need of these vital services is anticipated to double by the year 2030. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired on a century of advocating for and facilitating the realization of outstanding support services, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to VABV.
Are there any announcements? Member from Stowe.
Madam Speaker, we've just heard the reading of the resolution honoring Vermont athletes' accomplishments at the recent Cortina Milano Games. So, Madam Speaker, today we are honored to have with us many of Vermont's most accomplished skiing athletes, coaches, friends, family, and supporters. I would like to recognize our 2026 Winter Olympic medalists, double silver medalist Ben Ogden, originally from Landgrove, UVM graduate and now residing in Richmond. Bronze medalist, 6th place overall this year in Women's World Cup and UVM grad, Paula Molson, now residing in Waitsfield. Silver medalist, who also won silver medal in 2022 Olympics, Ryan Cochran Siegel, originally from Starksboro, UVM grad, and now residing in Burlington. Bronze medalist, Jessie Diggins, who retired 2 weeks ago as the most decorated cross-country skier in U.S. history. Jessie has been unable to be with us today, but sent a note. And Madam Speaker, may I ask your permission to read the note from Jessie Diggins?
You may.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Dear Representative Lipsky, over the past 14 years, my SMS T2 teammates and I have found inspiration in the hills and mountains of Vermont as we prepared for international cross-country skiing success. Vermont is a special place with a deep winter sports legacy, and it is a tremendous honor to be recognized along with Ben, Mac, Michaela, Paulin, Ryan, and many other Vermont-based Winter Olympians. Thank you to both Governor Scott and to all the legislators across the state. While we are often recognized for our individual successes, I feel certain that my fellow Olympians and teammates agree these successes are all the product of a great team environment. And to that end, along with competing, we work equally hard to build community and inspire the next generation. With appreciation, Jessie Diggins. And Madam Speaker, also in attendance today is 2026 Olympian Julia Kern of Richmond, and who finished 6th in the individual cross-country sprint. Additionally, 1972 Olympic slalom gold medalist Barbara Ann Cochran of Starksboro, and 1976 Olympic cross-country skier, medalist, and America's first overall World Cup winner in 1982, Bill Koch, originally from Guilford, now residing in Peru. Madam Speaker, constituent of mine, Trina Hosmer, UVM grad and 1972 Olympian and member of the first ever U.S. Women's Olympic cross-country ski team. At the World Masters Cross Country Championships in Italy, Trina won 4 gold medals, to add to her more than 30 gold medals she has previously won prior in World Masters Championships. Trina lives in Stowe. And Madam Speaker, I know brevity matters, but there is such a legacy of Vermont mentors and leaders joining us in the House today. Many of us acknowledge the passing of Johnny Caldwell. Johnny was a ski coach down at the Putney School, and he passed away this winter. But one of his legacy was someone who worked at the Putney School and went there. His name was Bob Gray, went on to be early USA and Olympic skier. And Bob Gray went on to mentor Bill Koch. Bill Koch, you know, was from Guilford originally, but he went on to become the first American cross-country Olympic medalist. And not only that, he started and became an overall world champion. And he founded the Bill Koch League, which many of your children or your grandchildren participate today. And that has spread a culture of cross-country love and exceptional results. And I also want to point out that the same is true in the most humble ways in Vermont. Out of Cochran's, you have generations of Olympic champions and Olympic team members in the same way where Paula Molson grew up in Buck Hill, Minnesota. Both have, I would say, a vertical drop of between 400 and 500 feet maximum. yet they have produced more Olympians than maybe any other ski hill in the United States. So I'm bringing this up because it talks about the humility of Vermont. And I want to remark, when I was touring around our Olympic guests and their families, Trina Hosmer, as we walked into the Cedar Creek room, acknowledged this is the first time in 55 years of being a Vermont Olympian that I've ever been recognized for that achievement. So I want you to know how important this recognition is to the athletes and how meaningful it is to us. So with that, I also, along with the Cochrans and the small, because I want to shout out to programs like what began in Putney and is now up in Craftsbury and all over at Trap Hill. The culture of winter sport greatness that's come out of our state is absolutely staggering. And there are two other additional guests, U.S. ski team members, Olympic team members, not medalists, but they represent the Vermont National Guard, and they're with us today, and they are also seated in the balcony. And this is Sergeant Tara Garrity Moats. She's originally from Albany, but trains out of Craftsbury, overall World Cup winner in Nordic combined, two-time ski jumping world champion, two-time biathlon specialist Sean Doherty, also from the Vermont Guard, elite athlete program, four-time Olympian and nine-time World Championship team member. So this culture that we, my final remarks, Madam Speaker, is I went up to Craftsbury last Saturday to try to get U.S. Olympic team member Jack Young to come to be recognized. And we watched him compete. Many of us went over to Lake Placid the week before and watched Jesse Diggins' final race, just watched Ben. It was really remarkable. I was talking to Jack's father and mother at the end of the event, and allowed that it must be very proud of Jack's achievement. And his father said to me, Jed, I'm not so proud of his achievement. What I am proud of is how hard he has worked to achieve what he's achieved. And that work ethic is what he and his wife are most proud of. That's the Vermont ethic, and I wanted to share that with you. And I'm sorry that Jack couldn't join us today. But Madam Speaker, in honoring all of the other programs we've mentioned, U.S. ski team members and former Vermont-based ski team members, the University of Vermont Catamounts are up here with their coaches, including Billy Reichheld and Patrick Weaver. The University of Vermont Catamount ski team at large, Stratton Mountain School, staff and coaches, the SMS T2 program leaders, Mount Mansfield Ski Club, Academy, Burke Mountain Academy, and Green Mountain Valley School leaders. There's an extraordinary, humble, but high-achieving guests in the gallery. And Madam Speaker, if you would please join me in welcoming them to the People's House. Thank you.
Will the guest of the member from Stowe please rise and be recognized? Member from West Rutland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a few minutes ago, we heard the resolution for the 100th anniversary of Vermont Association for the Blind. In some circles, it's known as VABV. And there are quite a group that came for the reading today in the gallery behind me. And Madam Speaker, I've known about organizations like this for about 56 years, since I was like 13 years old, because somebody that I was close to utilized it, and the incredible work that they do to help people live their lives, get into the workforce, and and that type of thing. But some of the people that are here, I mean, with VABV, I mean, we have executive directors, staff, clients. I'm not sure which it is, the director, producer, I guess you could say, of Dancing with the Burlington Stars. And I believe we even have a celebrity champion of Dancing with the Burlington Stars with the group. But anyway, Madam Speaker, if we can give the group a warm welcome, and because they certainly deserve it, not only for the 100 years, but for the work that they do on a daily basis.
Will the guest of the member from West Rutland please rise and be recognized? Member from West Rutland.
Yeah, it's me again. I think this week I've stood up and spoke on the floor almost as much as I did when I was a freshman, but you know how freshmen can be. Anyway, normally when we have a group, individuals aren't picked out, but this individual to me is worth picking out of the group. And I have two children, Heather and Shane. And this person was, I guess you could say, kind of instrumental, in their life. And she's a friend of 56 years, which coincidentally is the same amount of time that I've known about organizations like VABV. And she is the, I guess, the director, producer of Dancing with the Burlington Stars. And if you haven't been up to that show, you need to go, because it is a great show that they put on. But anyway, I mentioned my kids, Heather and Shane, and I'd like to introduce Heather and Shane's mother, Vicki.
Will the guest member from West Rutland please rise and be recognized? Member from Milton.
Yes, in that same vein, Madam Speaker, I know we don't ordinarily introduce individuals who have been introduced as groups, but he's here in a dual capacity. I'm pleased to have somebody here today that is not only a board member of the Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, visit our state's attorney for Grand Isle County. Would we please give a hearty welcome to a staunch defender of law and order and a friend, Grand Isle State's Attorney Doug DeSabato, and he's seated behind me in the gallery.
Will the guest member from Milton please rise and be recognized? Member from Hartford.
Madam Speaker, the devotional today was given by April Osman, a poet and Braver Angels volunteer from White River Junction. April's work seeks to find those things that unite us as people, and asks that we change our perceptions and work to increase civility and compassion. April performs call and response readings where audiences share short stories of positive interactions they've had with people of a different political belief. This helps to increase the understanding that we're all in this together with the same people, and to recognize our common humanity. So please join me in welcoming her to the House.
Will the guest of the member from Hartford please rise and be recognized? Member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, April 3rd isn't just another day on the calendar. It's a date stuck in the midst of mud season, carrying messages of hope with the first signs of spring and rebirth. April 3rd, 2010 was the day that the iPad was first released. Remember that birthday as you check your email. Pick up your snail mail from the lounge and celebrate that on this day in 1860, the very first Pony Express rider spurred his horse out of Missouri to deliver the mail. 5 years later, on this exact morning in 1865, Union troops marched into Richmond, Virginia, a victory secured in no small part by the thousands of Vermonters absent from their plows that spring to defend the Union, sending some good news home on April 3rd, that fateful mud season. And in 1948, it was on April 3rd that the Marshall Plan was signed into law, and a federal government united across party lines to help the world recover from the horrors of war by investing in reconstruction, dispatching a powerful message of peace and rebirth through our actions. Madam Speaker, may I quote a message from acclaimed film actor Marlon Brando, who was delivered into this world on April 3rd, 1924. Never confuse the size of your paycheck with the size of your talent. Madam Speaker, on April 3rd, the world didn't just get a newsworthy movie star, or news of peace, or new ways to deliver messages. It got my friend and retired rural mail carrier, the member of House Healthcare from Enosburg Falls. Please join me in wishing him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, member. Member from Barrytown. Member from Berry City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 2 years ago, I was sitting in my Jeep in my driveway when I made a call to the distinguished gentleman and statesman from Barrytown. He was one of the very first people that I reached out to, if not the first, because I wanted his honest opinion on whether I should run for state rep. His answer was absolutely. I don't know if I would have taken the leap if it had not been that case, but because of his encouraging words, I'm here today. After I was elected, he became more than just a colleague and an acquaintance. He became a mentor and someone I consider as a friend. He is a steady hand, a lighthouse during what is often a very stormy session. He has guided me on how to conduct myself, how to approach difficult votes, and how to stay grounded when things got complicated. Time and time again, I turned to him for advice on tough roll calls. And he was always there with wisdom, perspective, and temperance. Topper, your wisdom and demeanor will be greatly missed in this building. It will be missed by us, and we will all miss you. And I will miss you, and I love you.
Member from Barrytown.
Madam Speaker, here we are, and it has been a week of celebrating a legend, and now it's my turn to give it my best. Serving with Topper McFawn has been one of the greatest honors of my life, and getting to know his family and his wife, Marianne, there's no putting a price tag on that. And there will never be anybody that can sit to my left that will fill that seat like my round man. I have rewritten this speech so many times in the last week, but must confess, never edited it for length. In the weeks leading up to Francis's debut, Topper's mother, Evelyn, I am told, strolled the halls of the family home in Cambridge, rubbing her stomach and repeating, "This boy is going to be tops, everyone, tops. And I am going to call him Topper." Keep in mind that Topper was grown in the days before ultrasound, so his mother did not know she was having a boy, but I am told she was very strong-willed and stubborn. So Topper was willed into being from the start. In a tragic turn of events, young Evelyn passed not long after Topper's arrival, but the grit and determination she had willed him onto this earth with would fire his soul forever. In his mother's absence, it would be Topper's great-grandfather, Francis, for whom our young Top was named, that would step in with his cane to be our young hero's earliest protector. As Topper rode laps on his beat-up hand-me-down tricycle in the backyard, imagining himself on a chariot, it would be his great-grandfather who shook his cane at the folks from Child Services, sending them away as he stepped in at the age of 86, the age Top is now, to look after a child. Topper grew up quick, knowing what it's like to be hungry and fighting through it all. He and his grandfather figured out pretty quick that sports were going to be this kid's way out, and sports it was. In between brawling with the neighborhood kids, Topper excelled in baseball and, yes, of course, hockey. He played for some of Boston's finest prep schools first, and then moved on to Boston University. He could have gone to Harvard, but had some choice words for a headmaster whose recommendation was needed. So BU it was. It was while attending BU that Topper would meet the love of his life, Mary Ann Howland. Now, Mary Ann, you see, was not your average kind of girl. She had grown up in West Windsor, Vermont, in a very political family. The Howland family has been serving Vermont in the legislature and many other offices pretty much since there's been a Vermont. Mary Ann, however, in the 1960s, had seen enough of West Windsor and was ready to head to Boston and see the world. So Mary Ann and Topper met in Boston just as women's liberation, the civil rights movement, and the Beat Generation were kicking off. They ducked into cafes to listen to Joan Baez and Bob Dylan, and they fell deeply in love against the backdrop of a nation changing and evolving at light speed. Topper spent time in the Army and crossed the color line in the South to help some fellow black soldiers out in a bar fight against Jim Crow. And I have no doubt that a bra or two of Mary Ann's went up in flames. They were making their way in the city, but their struggles were not small. Milk crates for furniture, and a long past that Topper couldn't quite escape. So the decision was made to cut ties with the city and head north. And that is where, or nearly where, the McFawn's story turns into a Barry story. They moved on to the old farm at the corner of Windywood and Sunset and began a process of renovating that farmhouse and making it a home that continues to this day. Now let's be frank. Your average Flatlander with a Boston accent would be held at arm's length by the boys of Barry in the 1960s. But as we know, Topper is not your average Flatlander. Indeed, he was the equivalent of a hockey god to the boys of Barry, and it was not long before he was accepted. He went on to coach hockey at Spalding High School and brought them to the championship more than once. It is at this point in time that Top owes me a thank you, as a certain center in the championship game would not have made grades if I hadn't given him a good look at my algebra test. But hey, it's a team sport. And Mary Ann wasted no time getting to work teaching in the local schools and running the local 4-H chapter of which I would eventually become a member, along with their daughter Molly, who carries on that legacy today. Topper and Marianne together have done more work educating the greater Barrie area than anyone else I can think of. I could go on forever, Madam Speaker, because there are at least 3 Dr. Zhivago-length movies to be written from this man's life and love affair with Marianne. But I will close with this. The thing that is bringing Topper home right now is the thing that has always brought him home, and that is love and family. His grandchildren, Connor, Megan, Colin, Riley, Caitlin, and Josh, are his hope for the future and bring him joy every day. And I know he is looking forward to connecting with them more as they embark on their journeys through life. And now, without further ado, Madam Speaker, will you and the body please help me welcome the lovely Marianne and his children, Bennett, Kate, and Molly, to the People's House, albeit today it feels like Topper's house.
Will the guest of the member from Barrytown please rise and be recognized? Member from Poultney.
Madam Speaker, for the past few weeks, we have been roasting and toasting one of our own, Representative Francis Topper McFawn. After 20 years of dedicated service to the state of Vermont, Topper is going home to Mom, his college sweetheart and wife of over 60 years, Marianne. What are the chances that in my first term of office, I would be assigned to serve on the House Human Services Committee by none other than the former Speaker, Shap Smith, who is here today, and current Speaker of the House, Jill Kowinski, is sitting next to me. There were 7 freshman legislators assigned to Human Services that year, 3 of whom were Republicans. We leaned on Representative McFawn to show us the ropes and explain what was going on, and he taught us well. Topper and I talk about how we met our spouses. Turns out we both married our college sweethearts. Topper went on to tell me how he was intrigued by Marianne and how he wanted to impress her because she seemed a bit of a Renaissance woman. So instead of going to his gym class at the university, he audited an art history class. And the next time they went to the art museum in Boston, he started talking about artists and Impressionism and Monet and Picasso and what the paintings were trying to impart to the viewer and how the paintings made him feel. I'm sure Marianne was thinking, who are you and what have you done with Topper? I think Marianne was already impressed by the man he was. To Topper's sense of humor, and I'll preface this story by there's probably a 4 to 5 inch height difference between Topper and myself. Topper serves on a committee, as do I, that is up on the 3rd floor. And a few weeks back, he was heading down the stairs and I was coming up. So Topper stopped on the bottom rung of the stairs, and I was on the floor and I started talking to him. After a minute, he stopped me and said, "So this is what it's like to be tall." Topper, your stature is larger than life, regardless of your height. I will end with a poem by Grady Pollard, A Measure of a Man. The measure of a man is not determined by his show of outward strength, or the volume of his voice, or the thunder of his actions, or his intellect or academic abilities. It is seen rather in terms of the love that he has for his family and for everyone, the strength of his commitments, the genuineness of his friendships, the sincerity of his purpose, the quiet courage of his convictions, the fun, laughter, joy, and happiness he gives to his family and to others, his love of life, his patience and his honesty, and his contentment with what he has. Representative McFawn, our sincere and heartfelt thanks to you for your steadfast commitment to your constituents, to this House, and to the citizens of our great state of Vermont. You have served us all well. We wish you much happiness and joy as you begin the next chapter of your life. Godspeed.
Member from Barrytown, we thank you so much for your service. You've been a voice of compassion, of compromise. You've been a voice for those who struggle to find a voice in this building, and you leave a legacy to be deeply proud of. And you will see that legacy in your communities through different kids and programs. And you have made a difference. You have made a difference. We thank you so much for your service and wish you all the best. Thank you, member. Are there any further announcements? Member from Barrytown?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, this is the last little talk that I'm going to give on the floor, and it is going to be short. It's been a real honor and a privilege to serve the people of Barrytown and Williamstown. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve on the different committees that I've served on. A whole bunch of them, there were two, Healthcare and Human Services. And it's been an honor and a privilege to serve with the chairs of those committees, past and present. And I noticed past chairs are here as well. Thank you very much for letting me say those things that needed to be said. And we also have 4 people in the House that came in together that are still here. I'm one of them, and I'm going to leave. There's a senator here, I think, still here, yeah. That was a member of the 2004 class, and they're all done very well here. Mike Cart came in with us. Billy Canfield, me. I'm sure there are other people here too that might have come in, because I'm looking at some of the people I met outside, and they were wonderful people. They let a kid from 8 Donnell Street in Cambridge, Massachusetts, become part of Vermont. They worked with me, and I worked with them. It didn't matter what was in back of their name. All that mattered is that we were helping people have a better life and making sure that the state of Vermont remained the best place in the world to live. There's a lot of people in this room that I respect so much for what you've done for the people. And I am glad that I was a part, and you let me be a part of this magic place where you can see the results of what you do every day. You can see that in your constituents when you help them and how it makes their life better. Please make sure that you continue the good work that you do here. I know you hear outside, oh, they don't know what they're doing, etc. I'm inside, and I know how hard you all work. And it's been such a pleasure to work with you. And thank you for allowing me to do that. That's it.
Member from Essex Junction.
Thank you, Topper McFawn. I'll miss you. Madam Speaker, we have several former House members with us today to celebrate the member from Barrytown. I'd like to take a moment to introduce a few of them. Some of them are going to feel left out, but don't worry, there's a second announcement. We have with us today former Speaker Shap Smith, Ann Pugh, Patsy French, Sandy Haas, and Kelly Paella. Please join me in welcoming them back to the People's House.
Will the former speaker and former members please rise and be recognized? Member from Coventry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, like my hair, our ranks of the freshman class of 2005 is thinning out. And I think I just lost another strand today. There are 3 members left in this House. After today, there will be 2. Myself, Representative Canfield. We also have Senator Clarkson that came in with us. Also, Senator Morley also has rejoined the General Assembly. I'll bet on the other side. But also, Madam Speaker, you were part of our class as well, but not as a legislator, as the executive assistant to the Speaker, Speaker Symington. And we all had big dreams then. I think some of those dreams came true. We all worked well together. And, you know, when I was listening to everyone speaking about Topper, one thing that really struck me was he's a true leader. And the mentoring that he did not matter what party you're from. As long as you're here to help people, he was going to help you. So Topper, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve with you for these last 22 years. And as we always hear, we're a family. We have 11 sessions worth of family built up. We're in a pretty big family. Not quite as big as Alice's, though, but pretty big. But also, there are some classmates that came here to see you off today as well. So former Representatives Patty Comline, Sue Minter, Michelle Cooper-Smith, and also our Secretary of State, Sarah Copeland-Hansis, are here with us as well. So please welcome them to the House as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Will the guest member from Coventry please rise and be recognized? Are there any further announcements? Member from Williston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It has been quite a morning here and a showcase of the best of Vermont, from our young pages to Olympians to an extraordinary political and moral leader. It's a hopeful day here, and so I am thrilled to have 5 of my students from Colchester High School with me here today to see the best of Vermont and what we do here in the People's House.
Will the guest of the member from Williston please rise and be recognized? Member from Waitsfield.
Madam Speaker, I move that we journalize the comments of the members from Barrytown, Poultney, Burlington, and Newport.
The member from...
Did I forget anybody? Coventry and Berry City. It's a long list.
The member from Waitsfield moves that we journalize the remarks of the member from Berry City, the member from Barrytown, the member from Poultney, the member from Burlington, and the member from Coventry. Are you ready for the question?
And Newport. Did I say Newport?
There was no member from Newport who spoke on this.
Marcotte is Stowe. Okay.
Stowe. Oh, I see. Okay. All right, let's do this one more time, members. The member from Waitsfield moves that we journalize the remarks of the member from Berry City, Barrytown, Poultney, Burlington, Coventry, and Stowe. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have journalized the remarks of those members. Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. Members, we have one bill on our action calendar today, and that is House Bill 952, which is an act relating to capital construction and state bonding budget adjustment. The bill was introduced by the Committee on Corrections and Institutions. The member from Springfield, Representative Emmons, will speak for the committee. And affecting the revenue of the state, the bill was referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, which recommends that the bill ought to pass. The member from Berry City, Representative Wazazak, will speak for that committee. And then carrying an appropriation, the bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which also recommends that the bill ought to pass. The member from Franklin, Representative LaRoche, will speak for that committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 952. An act relating to capital construction and state bonding budget adjustment.
Member from Springfield.
Madam Speaker, this is a little difficult to report a bill like this after the past half hour or so. But it is a pleasure to be able to report this to some of my former colleagues who are sitting in the gallery. They get to enjoy a report of the Capitol bill. We lived it many years. Madam Speaker, we do have spreadsheets down on the table in the well if folks are interested. It was also sent out to your email last evening. The best way to follow the Capitol bill is through the spreadsheet. We will be reporting this bill. I will give a brief summary, and then we will be yielding to certain members of the committee.
Members, will the House please come to order so we can hear the report? Thank you.
I can give a few minutes. Madam Speaker, the Capitol bill usually goes under the radar. No one really pays much attention to it, but it's very important to the structure of state government, and it's very important as an economic development bill that goes back to our communities for investments in our municipalities, investments in our farm community, investments in taking care of our veterans, investments in terms of making sure that Vermonters have access to their judicial system, investments in public safety in terms of dealing with our Department of Public Safety as well as Department of Corrections, And then the real boring part that people always think of the Capitol bill, of just state buildings and bricks and mortar. But the committee has learned over time that the Capitol bill touches every person in this state. Our budget is built on a 2-year budget, and this year is in the second year of the 2-year budget, and we call it the budget adjustment. On the spreadsheet, you will see 2 columns. You will see the gray column with highlights that are in beige. That is the governor's recommended changes to these dollars that we have put in FY26 and FY27. In the red column, in those items that are highlighted in yellow, those are the changes that your Committee on Corrections and Institutions has proposed. Our 2-year budget is a total of about $159,550,000. It is broken down in terms of different sections, in terms of different parts of state government. So with that, Madam Speaker, I would like to yield to the member from St. Albans City, Representative Luneau.
The member from Springfield yields to the member from St. Albans City.
Thank you. And I will be reporting out sections 2 and 3. And the remarks will be relegated to items that changed this year. So section 2 is Agency of Administration, Buildings and General Services. Line 1, major maintenance, $1.281 million was added in cash. $513,000 in bonded dollars were added. Excuse me. Line 3, physical security enhancements for state buildings, $225,000 in cash was added. Line 4, 3-acre stormwater compliance, $1.5 million was reduced in bonding. We have 3 projects ready to go. This leaves $5.8 million available and will be adequate to get those projects done. Line 6, Asa Bloomer, $3.6 million of cash was added for roof and sewage upgrades. It will complete the project. Line 7, Rutland Multimodal Garage Renovation, $900,000 has been added, which will complete the project. Line 11, 120 State Street Steam Lines, there's been $1 million reduction in bonded due to project timing. Line 12, $1.3 million in bonded dollars has been added for design documents for proposed State House entryway upgrades, including a parking plan. Line 16, and this is the end of the changes in section 2, $3 million in cash has been added to complete the 32 Cherry Street garage repairs. Moving on to section 3, Agency of Human Services. Line 21, $8.426 million of bonded has been added for HVAC upgrades at partially the Springfield and Newport correctional facilities. This will bring the total available to $20,426,000 to do work in all DOC facilities. Line 23, $225,000 in cash has been added for correctional facility safety and security upgrades. Line 28, $700,000 in cash has been added for DOC door controls. This is to augment door control replacements that are enumerated in lines 24 and 25. Line 29, the Northern Correctional Facility boiler, $1 million in cash added. Line 30, DCF Youth Stabilization Facility, $772,000 cash added for design. There is an RFP out for design build, and these monies are being used in order to keep the design piece out of what would be the lease payment. Line 31, $3 million in cash is being added for Wi-Fi and correctional facilities. If you refer to section 17 of the bill, it references language for this. And specifically, the language states The Commissioner of Corrections and the Chief Information Officer of Digital Services shall monthly report while a General Assembly is adjourned, Sindai, in calendar year 2026 to the Joint Legislative Justice Oversight Committee in consultation with the chairs of the House Committee on Corrections and Institutions and the Senate Committee on Institutions on the installation of Wi-Fi in state correctional facilities. The last change in Section 3 is $1.25 million in cash added for replacement of the women's reentry and correction facilities. This is the end of Section 3, and I yield to the member from Shelburne.
The member from St. Albans City yields to the member from Shelburne.
Madam Speaker, thank you, member. Continuing with the spreadsheet, I will be speaking to sections 4, 5, and 6, and then commenting on section 12 to the language of the Capitol bill. In anticipation of America's 250th birthday this summer, there's been increased demand for roadside historical markers. In section 4, these markers found throughout the state tell wonderfully short historic stories in beautiful green and gold. Because of this demand, we are adding money to this line item, which is line item 40. This aging money that is being reallocated from historical burial sites will allow historical preservation to add another 28 markers this year. In section 5, building community grants, HCI level funded this program, which provides financial grants to support necessary infrastructure upgrades to nonprofits and municipalities throughout the state. These are small grants that go to historic barns, parent-child centers, and recreational facilities that pay for various needs, including boiler upgrades, ADA access, and roofing replacement. Section 6 concerns the Vermont Veterans Home in Bennington. Our committee visited this past summer, thank you, member, which was incredibly helpful for us to understand the challenges they are facing in an aging building. Recently, there was a federal inspection that discovered the sprinkler system was faulty and needs extensive upgrading. We are also funding the replacement of old septic pipes throughout the facility. Trust me, they need it. We bonded additional funds and gave them language which allows them to move money between projects there at the Vets Home. And finally, concerning language in the Capitol bill, if you're following along, in section 12 found on page 17, HCI amended statute 22 VSA subsection 725 that now gives permission to the Division of Historic Preservation to fundraise for state-owned historic projects. These funds would help them update displays and exhibits or restore historic sites they maintain. Madam Speaker, I would like to yield to the member from Bennington.
The member from Shelburne yields to the member from Bennington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will be reporting sections 9 and 10 of this year's Capitol Bill adjustment, which are referenced on the spreadsheet shared to members. For members who would like to follow along, you can use the provided spreadsheet and begin on line 76 of page 5. I want to note before I begin that there are no parts of sections 9 or 10 that differ from the governor's recommended capital budget adjustment, but there are many moving components with the cash and bonded dollar parts, so I will review each part carefully. So beginning with section 9, which is Agency of Natural Resources, the Department of Environmental Conservation, which I'll just refer to as DEC throughout the remainder of the presentation, includes $590,000 bonded dollars for fiscal year 2027 for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. Based upon the recommendations from DEC, the governor's proposed budget included $2.498 million from the cash fund to go into that, so a total of a little over $3 million. These funds are the 20% match to receive federal grants to support the drinking water fund that goes to our municipalities when they're in the process of building new drinking water infrastructure. I don't want to do math in public, as my chair says quite often, but you can see those dollars are going to draw down quite a significant federal match. Next, we have in line 74, DEC dam safety and hydrology projects. We kept the governor's recommendation to appropriate $500,000 in fiscal year 2027, and that was the same amount appropriated last year in bonded dollars. In line 75, we have a very specific line item here for the Waterbury Dam project in the amount of $150,000, which is coming from the cash fund. This was an unanticipated cost overrun for monitoring the dam's conditional status, and cash fund dollars were appropriated to ensure that the funds were readily available for the project. Moving on to Forest Parks and Recreation, I'll just refer to that as FPR. FPR has requested in line 76, $2.5 million for fiscal year 2027 in bonded dollars for park infrastructure and rehabilitation and improvement. That does encompass the 3-acre rule compliance. Additionally, $400,000 from the cash fund was appropriated for the same line item for a total of $2.9 million in both cash and bonded dollars. FPR also requested $700,000 for fiscal year 2027 to cover public lands access infrastructure found in line 80. This includes FPR sites and properties aimed to increase the accessibility, capacity, and the safety of particular sites where they've been identified for improvements. And this request remains unchanged as well from last year when we heard from the commissioner and also received the governor's original recommendation. Now, in line 81, the Department of Fish and Wildlife requested approximately $1.03 million in fiscal year 2027 for major maintenance and infrastructure projects. This is slightly below what was appropriated last year in fiscal year 2026. Finally, in line 83, there contains an additional $200,000 in cash fund dollars to help the department with dam maintenance and safety plans. And I'll note that's the Department of Fish and Wildlife. In total, the capital appropriation amount under Section 9 to the Agency of Natural Resources is $5,319,360 for a total biennium appropriation of approximately $11.1 million for the 2026 to 2027 capital bill. Next, Section 10, Clean Water. If the last section was not super thrilling, I can guarantee you it's going to be equally as riveting this time around. Last year, the fiscal year 2027 capital bill only had a temporary placeholder figure of $10 million, which sought to project what the Clean Water Board would recommend in its annual clean water budget, which provides funding to help municipalities, farmers, and other Vermonters implement projects that will restore and protect Vermont's water quality, including addressing priority sources of nutrient and sediment pollution. Particularly because of federal mandates that we have with state-level coordination to comply with clean water regulations, Section 10 capital appropriations are used to address our total daily maximum load, TDML, known as short, in the water basins of Lake Champlain. And I also just want to say, I took a lot of time to pronounce this right this year. Lake meant for Magog, just so the member from Derby knows. I learned. Anyway, so here's the breakdown of those allocations. So on line 89, we've allocated $1.5 million for water quality grants under the Agency of Agriculture. To note, this is about half of what was recommended last year. These grants enable farmers to make improvements that come from agricultural discharge and byproducts and provide financial assistance for farms to improve water quality as a preventative measure within the lake basins that I just mentioned. On line 91, we have $1,577,000, roughly, allocated to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund in the Clean Water Board's capital budget recommendations for fiscal year 27. This will satisfy state matching requirements that help fund wastewater and stormwater infrastructure projects mandated under federal and state Clean Water Acts and regulations. On line 92, the municipal pollution control grants We'll receive $3.92 million in bonded dollars for fiscal year 26, just slightly below what they received last year at a round number of $4 million. Line 94, we have the forestry access road water quality improvements. That's a mouthful. The $200,000 allocated to this line item will fund best management practices for roads located on public lands. This will make sure that any sediments and runoff can be best protected to maintain our water quality. And this amount was similarly appropriated in fiscal year 26. Let me make sure I'm following this right. Yep. Line 96 addresses the agricultural water quality projects. We appropriated $800,000 to support ongoing work with the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board to assist farmers that are addressing water quality issues centered around TDML thresholds and safety targets. This was consistent with the fiscal year 26 and 27 recommendations. Line 97, the land conservation and water quality projects were allocated $2 million. This is part of the water quality that goes beyond working directly with farmers. These are the auxiliary water projects that support landowners and allow the state to leverage additional federal funds. Now, Madam Speaker, if you had your calculator out, you would know that all these little line items add up to a square sum of $10 million for the clean water section. Now, I'm just going to jump really quickly over to the policy section, and my apologies for not having the bill that should be with members today, but I'm just going to use our final draft that our committee passed, and it was on page 14 of the 21 pages that we have, but in the policy section, it's section 10 of the bill, if members want to find that real quickly. It's just one minor change to discuss policy changes that we made for the Department of Environmental Conservation. The primary change was made in 24 VSA 4752 by adding terminology to the definition section of Title 24. So now we will be defining what an eligible mobile home park water system is, which is to be a privately owned nonprofit community type system that serves a majority of the users who reside in a nonprofit or resident-owned mobile home park. Now, what this does is this is going to allow for low-interest loans to be made available and more accessible for these types of communities throughout Vermont. The following section of the bill, which is section 11, just shows the statutory changes to reflect this definition in Title 24 regarding the conditions of loan agreements. With that, I will now yield to the member from Burlington, Representative Hedrick, to present section 13 to 18 of the spreadsheet and the capital bill.
The member from Bennington yields to the member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, as mentioned, I will conclude our walkthrough of the spreadsheet itself, sections 13 through the end, section 18. As the representative just mentioned, we'll transition then to the policy portion of the bill. This is H952, in case anybody wants to find that and follow along once we get there. Section 13 reflects alignment between the governor and the committee on public safety infrastructure. In this section, funding for the Rutland and Shaftesbury field stations will continue as planned. The committee also supports the governor's recommended investment in special teams public safety facility that will serve urban search and rescue, hazardous materials response, marine operations, and fire safety. This is part of a multi-year investment already underway, and this allocation will keep that project moving forward. Section 14 focuses on maintaining and improving courthouse infrastructure across the state. It includes continued support for smaller resilience projects such as a backup power systems, as well as target investments like the Essex County Courthouse Connector. At White River Junction, the courthouse renovation itself is complete, but the additional funding in this section addresses necessary riverbank stabilization to protect that state investment. And with respect to Newport, the committee recognized that the site and planning challenges remain unresolved. While work continues at the local level in partnership with Buildings and General Services, we did choose to hold off on additional funding of $750,000 until a more clear path forward has been established. Section 15 continues funding for the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Program, including the dry hydrant program. There are no changes in this section from the base capital bill. Section 16 provides funding to the Vermont Historical Society to replace what are called Munter's climate control units at the Berry Building. This unit has reached the end of its functional life, and the replacement will ensure the continued protection of the building and the historical collections that we house within. And then sections 17 and 18 reflect our regular process of reviewing prior capital appropriations and then reclaiming funds that have not been encumbered within statutory timeframes. This year, the governor identified the majority of these reallocations, and the committee identified then 3 additional opportunities, including 3 cents from forests, parks, and recreations. In total, we are claiming approximately $3.3 million in bonded funds from previous projects and returning then $5.4 million in general fund dollars to the infrastructure fund, which will be used for current and future capital needs. Madam Speaker, that concludes my report on the spreadsheet. We're going to yield now to the member from Fairfield.
The member from Burlington yields to the member from Fairfield.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm under strict orders from the chair that this must take at least 90 minutes. And those guys went fast, so I will be speaking slow. I will be reporting on sections 9, 14, 15, and 16 of the actual bill, not the spreadsheet. If you haven't noticed by now, I lied about the 90 minutes. Section 9 is the section that lists the projects funded by the general fund dollars that are already appropriated in the big bill and are represented in our committee amendment that in that bill that this body passed last Friday. So I'm not going to mention them. Section 14 is language authorizing the transfer of the land at Southern State Correctional Facility between the Department of Buildings and General Services and the town of Springfield for the purposes of economic development. For context, the concept of this transfer was part of the original purchase agreement to mitigate impacts on the Springfield community on this property back in the late 1990s. And we heard something about Hojo's Pits during this. Maybe the members from Springfield know about that. Section 15, this section repeals the original transfer agreement that the Section 14 is replacing. Pretty simple. Section 16 is language that temporarily freezes funding for DCF for the purpose of development of a new high-end system of care facility, the Green Mountain Youth Campus, for justice-involved youth until that entity reports back to the Joint Fiscal Committee and the chairs of the committees of jurisdiction with information such as the written analysis of the estimated cost of an annual operating budget for the full utilization of the full system of care. And this language also appears in the big bill that this body passed last week. The committee voted 10-0-1, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
And now speaking for the Committee on Ways and Means, member from Berry City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The H-952 was referred to your Committee on Ways and Means. Our report can be found on page 1715 of today's calendar, and there is no fiscal note. So throughout the sections of the bill, there are sections that refer to fees, leases, and accepting of donations and gift to the state, but there is no immediate fiscal impact, despite those things being mentioned throughout the bill. We heard from Legislative Counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel, the Legislative Finance Manager from JFO. The committee vote was 10-0-1. We ask for your support and apologize for not assisting in hitting the 90-minute mark.
And now speaking for the Committee on Appropriations, member from Franklin.
Madam Speaker, your Appropriations Committee received and reviewed Capital Bill, and on a vote of 11-0-0, we would ask the body to support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
So the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Member from Waterbury.
Madam Speaker, I just want to rise, one, because if I didn't, the representative from Northfield would have my head. To express our appreciation for the language in this bill that also appeared in the budget regarding the high-end facilities and budgets for youth in DCF custody. We have considerable concerns about ongoing operating expenses given recent contracts that have been signed, and we appreciate the inclusion of this language in the capital bill.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Member from West Windsor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would be remiss if I did not stand on behalf of one of the communities I represent, Windsor, which is facing a really huge year in 2027. So I have a couple of questions about Windsor, Vermont in 2027, if that would be all right, Madam Speaker. One is about Section 5 of the spreadsheet.
Member from Shelburne? Member from Shelburne is interrogated.
And Madam Speaker, I'm not positive that this is the right section, but is the money for any upgrades to Windsor's Old Constitution House, which is the centerpiece of 2027's first signing of the state's constitution, was that money increased from $140,000?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Madam Speaker.
Okay. The Old Constitution House, which is where Vermont's first state constitution was signed, has not been open in more than 5 years. And there was budgeted $140,000 to get that building open in time for July 8th, 2027, which is the 250th anniversary of the signing of Vermont's first state constitution. And I wondered whether that amount had been increased in this budget.
Madam Speaker, I'm going to throw it over to the member from Springfield. I didn't hear much about this year. Sorry.
The member from Shelburne yields to the member from Springfield. And member from West Windsor, we're having a little bit of hard time hearing you. If you could move the mic up. Thank you.
My apologies, Madam Speaker. I'm having a hard time negotiating this chair while negotiating the microphone.
Madam Speaker, in testimony that we received from the Division of Historic Preservation, they always give us a list of projects for our historic sites. And yes, the Constitution House in Windsor is on that list and continues to be on that list. There is money that within our major maintenance line for State House historic sites that goes directly to those particular projects. And the Constitution House in Windsor is included in that. And there's a lot of work that needs to happen in that building, and that is continuing in order to meet those deadlines for the reopening.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so specifically, $140,000 continues to be allocated, and it continues to be adequate for the amount of work that needs to be done in order to get it open by July 8th, 2027?
Madam Speaker, that is the plan.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a second question on behalf of Windsor, Vermont, which has to do with the upcoming 10th anniversary of the closure of the Southeast Correctional Facility, which is also 2027.
Madam Speaker, I need some clarity. Are we talking about the Southeast Correctional Facility?
Yes, Madam Speaker, the former Southeast Correctional Facility.
At this point, we still own that particular property. It has been discussed over a number of years as to what could be some potential uses. The state has decided that they would like to hold on to that property at this point. We have not had any discussions about it in our committee this particular session, and we are still trying to figure out what to do. It was where the correctional facility was, and it has been closed for a number of years. There is a wildlife management area there, as well as buildings and properties that were used for the correctional facility. And the state is still trying to figure out what to do with that property. But at this point, we have decided to keep it in state ownership.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question actually was whether the environmental study for which I think around somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 was set aside last year to study the actual land, whether that money was utilized for the study last year, and whether, if it was not, whether there are plans to conduct an environmental study in this upcoming year before the 10th anniversary of the closure. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, we did have a study done, and we heard the results of that last year in committee. And it was to look at possibly expanding the wildlife management area closer to the property that was the correctional facility. There was some positive reaction to that, but there was also some concern in terms of would that wildlife management area, the conservation piece, be too close to the current property. There's been no action on that because we still need to make a decision how we're going to move forward.
Madam Speaker, I'm just trying to seek clarity. There was money that was set aside in last year's budget, in the 26 budget, to conduct an environmental study on the, not the wildlife management area, but the now former correctional facility property that includes the collar, so that it could be determined what capacity there was for, whether there were brownfield cleanups required, whether there was or was not capacity for water and sewer and so forth on that property. And I wondered whether that study had been completed, and if not, whether it is still planned for this upcoming year.
Madam Speaker, I would recommend that the member from West Windsor would come into our committee and discuss this a little further. We have had a number of studies done, so I'm not particularly sure what study the member is referring to or the dollars, because I know in our world of the capital budget, we have had studies for BGS to look at those facilities, that facility, and what buildings might be able to be torn down and the cost. We've also had studies in terms of the conservation piece and possible use of that with the facility, the buildings that are currently there. I think there may be some confusion in terms of what studies, where, and where the dollars came from, because some of these dollars may not have come from the capital bill. So I would really recommend that we continue this conversation in the committee.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
So the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Members, that completes the orders of the day. Are there any announcements? Member from Shelburne.
The Caucus for Vermont's Economy will be meeting today at noon in room 10. We will be joined by Let's Build Homes and someone from the Chittenden County RPC, and the discussion will be about current updates to Act 181. Please join us if you can and bring your lunch.
Member from Swanton.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Could you please join, or the House please join me in wishing a 24-hour delayed happy birthday to the member from Heinsberg.
Happy birthday, member. Member from Moortown.
Madam Speaker, next Wednesday in room 10 and 11, we are gathering for a Braver Politics workshop. And I know a lot of people are planning to come, but just a reminder that we would appreciate filling out the attendance form that's in the email from the member from Waitsfield. And we hope you'll join us for this opportunity to sharpen up our discussion skills about difficult topics and channel topper. Thanks.
Are there any further announcements? Member from Manchester.
Madam Speaker, just wanted to let members of House Energy and Digital Infrastructure know that we have a witness waiting for us, and so we're going to scramble to our committee room and get started. Thanks.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to adjourn until Tuesday, April 7th at 10 a.m.?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion this body stand in adjournment until Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 at 10 a.m.
You have heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And